Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, we're back here on SRN Varsity, a subset of Tennessee Sports Renaissance Man and the Chase Thomas podcast, because I don't do enough content each and every day all across our great state of East Tennessee. But we're back here for our second installment, kicking things off with Jesse Smithey of 5starpreps.com. Go subscribe to 5starpreps.com today if you are not already, to get you prepared for the quarterfinals, which, Jesse, I can't believe we're already here. The season is going to be over here in just a matter of weeks.
Right. It's I feel like the whole regular season, you're just fighting to get to fall break and kind of catch your breath. And then you get out of fall break and you realize you only have 2 or 3 weeks of the regular season left, and you plow through those, and then the playoffs just steamroll by as well. So it's gone really, really fast. It probably doesn't seem like that to the kids, but as we get older, these weeks fly by.
Absolutely. And, I was at Maryville last week, and Maryville Riverdale was a lot of fun. That was a really, really fun back and forth game. And we'll actually have on Riverdale's head football coach here this week as well, to talk about his Murfreesboro program, which really pushed Maryville. The final score, not a great indicator of actually how that game went on both sides. But we'll get into Maryville here in a second. But I wanted to start things off. You had some breaking news here today where South-Doyle makes a head coaching change. There's going to be a couple, it looks like, here on the market here in Knoxville for the 2026 season. What happened on that front, and what do you see as the path forward for the Cherokees?
Sure. I think the first question that comes to mind in nowadays is, like, whenever a coach gets let go, it's, okay, what did he do? What did he do bad? And in this case, I can't find anything. And with LA Headrick, this was his second year at South-Doyle. He had the program going in the right direction. When he took over, they were coming off of 2 consecutive 2-8 seasons. And then his first year, he took over. Players left the program. They didn't like the culture he was building and the discipline that he was kind of installing that first year. So some of those guys left. And he had to endure a 1-9 season his first year. And then this year, you could see all the fruits of the labor and everything he put into the program really starting to come out of the ground and grow. And they were 4-2. They had an overtime win over a really good Gibbs team. They had an overtime loss to a really good Carter team. And then they challenged Anderson County for 4 quarters. And we all know how good Anderson County is. But injuries piled up for South-Doyle in the last month of the season. They kind of fell flat, lost their last 4 games, missed the playoffs. But this wasn't one of the programs that I wrote down in my notes mode on my phone as to, hey, kind of keep an eye out for a coaching change here. This was totally unexpected, and I think just the administration might have somebody else in mind. We're going to kind of keep an eye on that. I've been hearing some rumors. It's not something I want to divulge yet, just because of, again, it's not sourced. It's not truly and properly sourced. But we're kind of keeping an eye on a theory, let's put it out there right now, that we might see happen at South-Doyle. And, of course, if that happens, we'll release that to the public.
Is that a good job in Knoxville still in 2025?
It can be. It was, I took over here in around mid-2000s, and South-Doyle was always a doormat. It was always just a cellar dweller in the region standings. Every now and then they might have a 4-6 or a 5-5 season, but for the most part, perennial losing team. Never really had to worry about them. Never had to go out to their school that much to cover meaningful football games. And then Clark Duncan came over, and Clark Duncan is highly energetic, highly passionate, and just infused that personality into that community, and everybody got on board and everything aligned from the feeder programs up. And he took it to a program that could make it to the state quarterfinals or make it to the state semifinals. And then when he became ready to retire, it hasn't been the same since. The baton got passed to different guys and just didn't have that same kind of personality and fire that people gravitated towards, right? And L.A. Headrick had a little bit of that. He's a passionate guy, a fiery guy, and I thought he might go in and have some of the same characteristics and traits that Clark Duncan had. And so when you started to see them win early in the season, you go, okay, he's doing some good things. We actually did some midway point of the season awards, and he was my coach of the season so far, halfway through the regular season, because he had garnered that much respect to what he'd been able to do in year 2. So we were all stunned. I'm still getting texts from coaches saying, hey, man, what's the deal? Because we all thought he's doing a great job. So we'll see. We'll see what happens out at South-Doyle as to who they name a successor.
Another job that's open that I think is really fascinating too is Webb. See, because you have a longtime legend there stepping down and stepping away. You've had a lot of, Power Four talent come through there, and you're also kind of seeing, with the Innsworths, the Macaulays, the Baylors, a lot of the private schools. Even here locally with CAK and Grace, with Justin Price. Their season just ended, but they had a fantastic season over there with the Rams. Webb is kind of, how can I phrase it? Where it's just they're in a downturn. It was not a great year for them. Numbers wise, you always wonder about that with their football program, but is that still a good job? Are they a sleeping giant where they just, I don't write off Webb in the future of high school athletics here in East Tennessee, or where are you at with them?
Yeah, it's still very much a good job. You can go out to the campus and see the money and the facilities that they have, the investments that they're putting into that school and into that football program. Now, what needs to happen for Webb, as you mentioned, some of those other big brand name teams in Division II football, and most of those are up in AAA. Webb's still kind of down there in the middle tier in AA. So it doesn't have that far to go. It's not trying to compete with Baylor and Macaulay. That's a different money realm, and that's a different division of Division II football. They just need to make sure that they can keep up with some of these, again, Division II AA middle tier teams in the Memphis area, in the Nashville area, and here locally with Grace Christian and Lakeway Christian. All that really needs to happen, and you mentioned it, roster numbers. If you went to watch Webb in Josh Heupel's 7-on-7 tournament this summer, you'd have been blown away. Quarterback looked great. You had Shavar Young out there. You had Greg Tate out there. They really looked like they passed the eye test offensively. Word was they were going to get these big freshmen in on the offensive line that were 6'3", 6'4", 290. And you knew there'd be some growing pains there. But what we didn't know and what we couldn't see really there was maybe some of the defensive deficiencies that program had. And they could score points to anybody this year. Webb could. And Shavar Young, the Clemson commit, had an unbelievable year. But they just couldn't stop anybody. And you looked over there during the game, and they just didn't have anybody else to put in.
Yeah.
And so if guys get nicked up and that depth chart starts to get a little shallow, they don't have much else to plug in. So they need somebody that can go in there and get kids into Webb, quality kids, next level kids, Division I kids, and be able to take that roster number, say from 35 up to somewhere around 55 to 60. They're never going to be a school that has 100 or 90 or anything like that, like you'd see a 6A or 5A program. But if they can get up to around 55 of good quality kids, and that's hard in Knoxville, there's going to have to be some guys that go out somehow and convince families to move to Knoxville somehow and enroll at Webb. So we'll see, again, if they can hire somebody that can do that.
Time to go over the border. We got to go to Canada.
They might have to. The Canadians are ruling here in East Tennessee high school football. I got to see a couple of them last Friday night down at Baylor for sure.
Yeah, that'd be really funny. That's just the new thing here. Just a Canadian.
Who knew the Canadians are so good at football, right? I mean, we knew they had the CFL up there, but that's a whole different kind of version of the game that we played in the States. But some unreal talent is making its way into the States, and not only football but basketball as well.
100%. Gut feeling here, because I'm really curious about these two programs. They're still alive, obviously in the quarterfinals. Alcoa, their first year, moving up here. Maryville, going to be on the road. They just can't get out of Murfreesboro 3 weeks straight if they win out, because Oakland most likely is who their semifinal date will be, who they've obviously played a lot of late. Who, based on what you've seen this year and where you think about both teams right now, who has the better chance to you of winning a state title this season? Is it Maryville or is it Alcoa?
Right now, I'd probably side with Alcoa. Just because, again, they've won more championships recently. They've won 10 in a row. Of course, that was 3A. They're up in 4A now. But they got some bad news this week. One of their star players, Condis Cherry, has a broken leg, so he's not going to be available in the postseason. That was a guy that they could use out of the backfield, running the football, catching the football in the secondary. And that's kind of where they got gashed in that loss to Anderson County in Week 11 was the secondary. So, but from people that I've talked to about that Anderson County loss, they said that Alcoa never really did anything crazy, just kind of base defense, base offense, never really showed any wrinkles. It was almost like we're going to try to win this game with just our base version of ourselves. And if we do, great. And if we don't, we're still going to be in a really good part of the bracket where we're probably not going to be challenged all that much or until we get to, say, the state semifinals. I think we'll see a different version of Alcoa when they get to that state semifinal game, whether they're playing Anderson County, whether they're playing Greenville, I like Alcoa at this time of the year. Maryville hasn't won a state championship in around 6 years. And the more losses that stack up against Oakland, it becomes a mental thing, right? And you saw Maryville. They have really good quarterback play. They have great offensive line play, really solid defensively, okay in the backfield, okay at wide receiver. They're going to have to force turnovers. They're not going to gash Oakland down the field with the vertical passing game. They don't have the personnel to do that. They're going to have to run the football soundly, play really good defense, force turnovers somehow, keep it low scoring like it was a year ago, and trying to grind out that victory. If they can't do that, if they can't stop Oakland athletes, it's going to be a bad day for Maryville. So right now, I'm probably more of an Alcoa lean, but Maryville wants this game bad. They want Oakland bad. They felt like they played a really good game in that Oakland matchup in the semifinals last year, and they want a rematch.
I think it might come down to Will Jones, he's a really good player, 3-year starter now, but you saw in the second half, like they unleash his legs more. Like when he uses his legs in the running game, because they weren't running the football extremely well with their 2 tailbacks who got a lot of carries in that game. But when Will, it's just so hard for these high school kids to follow the eyes and to keep up with Will when he decides to keep it and run. He had a bunch of big runs. He had 5 total touchdowns in that football game. That to me feels like the difference maker. And they also like Coach Hunt has done a great job at where that game he swung the middle on 3rd and 16 and he just uncorks one down the left-hand side and finds Faust over there. And they had that big play potential, but you saw, I think Riverdale did find a way to kind of show one of the weaknesses with Maryville, which is over the middle of the field, where and Coach Hunt talked to me about it afterwards. Like most teams, and you see it every week, Jesse, is they challenge in the passing game side to side or down the side, but still near the sideline. So if it's an incompletion, to take away that interception risk, Riverdale's got big-bodied receivers, and they were challenging Maryville over the middle of the field, and Maryville really struggled there. I don't know if Oakland will be able to do that, or if some of these other teams will pick up on the tape from Maryville. But yeah, it is interesting because you kind of think, look, if Maryville keeps playing Oakland, they're going to get him at some point, right? Like you would think they're going to get him at some point. Maybe this is the year.
Yeah, and from people that I've talked to in Murfreesboro, right around the end of the regular season, Oakland was getting some star players back. So they were already good as it was. They were undefeated in the regular season and had some of their big-time Division I talent shining. But apparently they had some guys, some dudes that are next-level players that hadn't been able to play much in the regular season. They were getting them back. So Oakland's only getting stronger by the week. And by the semifinals, I got to think they're going to be in peak form. So yeah, it's going to be Maryville's good versus they're good. I still don't want Maryville, and I know Maryville's not going to look past this week because, again, they play a strong brand of football in Murfreesboro. You're talking about Riverdale, Blackman, Oakland, whoever. And so they're going to have to face that this week. I do think Maryville wins that game and gets to the Oakland matchup. But, yeah, it's just Maryville's going to have to find a way to muddy it up. And like you said, Will Jones's legs may be the key. I thought they did a good job this year of keeping him fresh. He doesn't have a ton of carries when you look at his statistics, but he can get out. Very, very good runner and can make some things happen. Rushed for over 100 yards in that game last week.
100%. It kind of feels like Sevier County, after they lost in upset fashion to Grace, kind of lost some of that a big luster where obviously you have the winning streak and everyone's all eyes on the Smoky Bears, and their playoff run's going to be really hard to top from last year anyway. It was some of those iconic wins, particularly the Powell win last year, but lo and behold, they're still winning, and they've got Lincoln County, who upset Powell on the road this past week. Pretty good path back to another deep playoff run. Like, do you like their repeat chances? And are a lot of people just kind of sleeping on Sevier County just because they lost one game earlier in the year?
A month ago, I did not, and the reason I say that is we think about the version of them from 2024. And then you look at the pieces that they had coming back for 2025, and you just expected week one for them to just dominate straight out of the gates. And they didn't do that. It was like something was missing. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it wasn't what I thought they would look like in the middle part, early beginning stages of the season. And they kind of hung on. They found a way to win that Greenville game when they shouldn't have. And then it all kind of came to a head when they lost to Grace Christian. And the more you talk with people, there were injuries. There were guys that were supposed to be in the program that ended up leaving or tried to transfer but couldn't and ended up back at another school. And it felt like it just took a while for Sevier County to finally put together its complete identity. And then they played this team, Huntington, West Virginia, a team that's loaded with Division I talent. Nobody in East Tennessee really knew anything about them. But the more I our research. This is a really quality program, and came over to Sevier County, and Sevier County whipped them. And that was my moment where like, oh, wow, we might have something here. And then over the next 4 weeks, Sevier County has just dominated. And I watched them play in person, and that version that I saw in person was what I'd been waiting on all season long. And it reminded me of when Central High School under Bryson Rosser about 5 years ago, they were trying to repeat. And in the regular season, it didn't go so well. They went like 8-2 and just didn't look like a team that was ready to repeat. But once the postseason began, it was like the magic came back. And that want to and that desire came back. And that's what I'm seeing in Sevier County right now. It was almost like they used the regular season as a testing ground. What's going to work? What's not going to work? Who can we plug in here? Who can we? And it's like here towards the end of the season, they're in peak form, and I would not want to play them right now.
Final one here for you, Jesse. When you look at the offseason here, it's obviously early. We still got to wrap up the playoffs here for all our different classifications. But when you're doing your offseason primer in your head here, who do you think is going to have the most interesting offseason ahead based on results this year, graduate players, that sort of thing? Who right now to you, you're like, man, I can't wait to do a deep dive here because I think they're in for a very, very interesting offseason.
Anderson County. Anderson County Mavericks. You got J.D. Gillum, a freshman quarterback, the son of Anderson County head coach Davey Gillum. This past offseason, we saw an influx of Bearden High School talent come to Clinton, Tennessee, and enroll at Anderson County High School. We're talking upwards around 8 to 10 players from Bearden High School, a quality 6A program that made it to the quarterfinals in 2024. All of a sudden, that talent is surrounded around J.D. Gillum. Well, guess what? A lot of that talent, they're seniors this fall. They're all going to walk out the door. J.D. Gillum's just a freshman. What's the next crop going to look like that they put around him? Are they going to find a new wave of students that enroll there? I don't know, but it's a question that many people are asking. Or will J.D. Gillum stay at Anderson County? Will he be one of those high-profile quarterbacks who ends up at an academy somewhere out of state or some big-time program? So these are all questions that are floating out there, and I think things that we'll have to monitor in the offseason. I don't think it happens immediately. It's one of those things that will be a slow burn, a slow build, but it's definitely something I look to see how Anderson County's roster comes together for 2026.
You didn't even mention the biggest of them all, Jesse.
What's that?
They got to replace Ella.
Yeah. Oh, well, that one's already, we know who's coming in. That's Ella's, one of Ella's siblings, younger sibling that'll come in and retrieve the tee. So that plan's already in place. But we
don't know. How is she going to be? Look at you're a Tennessee guy, Jesse. You know how the new Smokey's been. The new Smokey has not gone well. It's we still haven't gotten a full game from Smokey, I don't think. So I don't know. Is she going to be as good?
Ella's trainer, I know him, and I know how he goes about his business when it comes to training his dogs. I think she'll be quality. No problems retrieving the tee. The only time they have a problem is if they use a green kicking tee. The dogs can't see it. There's one time where the kicker for Anderson County 2 years ago used a green kicking tee, and Ella runs out on the field. She can't find it. She's just running around crazy. And so somebody finally had to go help her find it. So just as long as they don't use a green kicking tee, I think the dog will be fine.
That's amazing. I didn't know that was a thing.
Me either. Apparently dogs, or maybe that breed of dog, I don't know, can't see green, or maybe it's just a complete dog thing. Who knows? But that was her kryptonite, and lo and behold, it was green.
Well, shout out to a great dog on a great run in Anderson County, and a lot of change, a lot of turnover, both on the dog front and on the roster front going into next year. Jesse, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at 5starpreps.com this week?
Yeah, of course, we have all of our football content, previews, statistics, predictions, players to watch, things of that nature. We also have high school basketball that's beginning this week. So jamboree coverage, storylines to know, players to watch out for. We got some big-time basketball talent in this city this year, most notably at Webb High School or Webb School in Knoxville and at Catholic High School. So there's going to be some big-time rivalry matchups in East Tennessee in basketball. We let you know all about that on the website this week at 5starpreps.com.
I love it. Go support Jesse and the good team over there at 5starpreps.com today and all that good stuff. So, Jesse, thank you so much for the time. I greatly appreciate it. We'll have to check back in again soon.
Yeah, appreciate it, Chase.
All right, we're back here on SRM Varsity right here on sportsrenaissanceman.com, a subset of the Chase Thomas podcast where we talk all things Tennessee Vols every day. We also talk Tennessee high school football multiple times a week. And we are now joined by a first timer on this very program who I was at his football game on Friday night, got a little cold. I almost didn't bring a jacket. Will Kriesky, Riverdale head football coach. But my wife was like, you should bring a coat. And I was like, the weather's great. Why would I need to do that? And I'm glad I did, because it got very cold once the sun went down. The second half would have been a disaster for me. But it was one of my favorite games of the year. I think I wrote about it over there at sportsrenaissanceman.com and SRM Varsity. So really impressed with your group. Obviously not the final result you guys wanted, but that was a game where the final score in particular, was very deceiving. And one of those, you had to be there to see how that game was going. So now that you've had a couple days here to kind of reflect on the game and kind of get away from it, from just the end result and everything else, what did you make of your team's performance on the road in tough territory at Maryville?
First of all, it's been since 2011 since I've been at Maryville.
Mm-hmm.
We played there, when I was an assistant for Coach Adelot. We went in 2009 and 2011. And I'm going to be honest, I forgot about just how crazy that atmosphere is, and how special that atmosphere. I mean, it's unbelievable what they do for high school football, man, that community and everything. And it was neat. And I felt like, I'm going to be honest, I felt like the first quarter, our kids were playing not to lose. Because, again, it was a different atmosphere. It was new. It's somewhere we've never played before. And it was a big time game. But, I felt like my kids played hard. Again, I felt like it took us a quarter to get adjusted. I think once they got adjusted and got the feel for things, they started playing. And obviously the third quarter was our best quarter. And we played well. And unfortunately the score does not indicate the game. I felt like for three quarters, we were right there with Maryville. Giving up that 3rd and 17, I truly, now I'm not saying we would have won the game, but I feel like if we would have stopped them on that 3rd and 17, it would have probably been maybe a 1-score game. It would have been close. But I felt like our kids played hard. I felt like we gave Maryville a good game. I think we battle tested them. They were very good up front. I mean, that quarterback highly impressed me, and I truly understand why he's up for Mr. Football. And I'll be surprised if he's not one that wins it, just because of his production and what he's done. And he's such a leader on the field, and you can see how he commands that offense, and the kids just follow him. And the kid number 1 for Maryville, he's a special football player.
Yeah,
Maryville Maryville has some really, really special kids and talented kids, and they're right here. Like, I mean, you'll see. Heck, I mean, I know not everybody likes the new playoffs, but Coach Hunt and Maryville, they're going through our district. They had me. Now they're going to go face my brother in Blackman and test them. And if they come out of that game, then they'll more. They got the winner of Green Hills and Oakland, who Oakland's been in the semifinals the last 11 years. So I felt like our kids played well. I felt like they played hard. I felt like we matched their physicality. And I just felt like, Maryville, I mean, they don't make mistakes. And I try to preach that to my kids all week long, that just, they're not going to make mistakes. They're going to be exactly whatever they call, whether it's offense or defensive call, they're going to be in their spot they're supposed to. And that we would have to play a great game. And unfortunately, we made too many mistakes against the top 5 program.
But there were still so many positives. In particular, you talk about that 3rd and 17, and that was just a big time throw from Jones to what is it? I'm blanking on his name. Colton Faust, and it was a big time play. The third quarter, though, I was texting my wife, and I was like, the momentum's just kind of shifting here, because y'all had a great turnout on your side with your fans making the trip over. And you could feel it where you were putting the pressure on going to third quarter, and a couple plays there. And I mean, the Vaughn big time touchdown run, and we'll talk about him. He's just a sophomore here. So that's big time for your program. But you guys, you took, like you talked about, that first quarter did not go the way you ultimately wanted to go. Interception early. Did you go 3 and out on the second drive?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
And so you kind of were quickly in a 14-0 hole. Or 12-0, because they missed y'all blocked the extra point and they went for 2. And you were quickly in a 2-score hole, but your guys didn't flinch. And I think that is a testament to your guys, right?
Yes. Once we got down 12-0, then it was like, all right, well, we can play, and so it went back and forth, and we got them a stop. We got that 4th down stop, inside
the red zone.
Inside the 20. So we had that was huge. And once we got that, we got our momentum, and we were able to drive down. Unfortunately, right before half, that's something I've tossed and turned at 3:00 in the morning the past 5 days thinking about it.
I wanted to ask you about it, and I wondered. I didn't know if you were ready to, because it was something I jotted down in the moment.
And it was crazy because the previous games, and you saw me go for a fourth down later on in the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just felt like us getting the ball that we had to have some kind of, and we were out of timeouts. There was a timeout that I'm still kicking myself for. I burned a timeout, and I didn't realize a Maryville kid was on the ground injured on the close to their sideline, and I wouldn't have had to burn the timeout.
Oh.
And I could have had that timeout, and I could have been able to run the ball right there to punch it in, or have an opportunity to punch it in before I decided to kick that field goal. Unfortunately, I told Coach Barnes to try to get a quick pass in real quick, because I felt like we had right there, we had to get some kind of points. Because a lot of times in the second half, when we have a high percentage of starting the second half and driving down and scoring. And I felt like, if we could get some points there and then drive down and score, we'd be right in the game. And that's exactly what we did, and then I'm kicking myself. Well, what if it would have been 14 to 12 at that time? But still, we'd have had to stop them on that 3rd and 17.
And it's really hard to make those calls right in the moment. You know what I mean? And I think it also is a different mindset for the kids being shut out in the first half. If you don't get it, and like, what's your momentum look like when you're going in the locker room? If you don't get it and you make that big call and he gets stuffed, or you do a goal line pander, whatever, like, that's something you went in with positive momentum still with the field goal, with points, and you get the ball back. You feel good that you run the risk of, man, that was maybe our best shot the first half, and we came away with no points. And like, that's just a harder thing to get up for, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you kind of hit the nail on the head. That's what I was thinking about. If and they got a good front. Their front seven is as good as anybody we played. And I just felt like if we come away with no points, it's going to be a tough halftime. It's going to be tough to get them up. And I knew, and our demeanor was different. At half, it was like, well, we can't play with these guys. We just drove it down 80 yards and got a field goal where we should have had the opportunity to score if we had enough time, or if I didn't burn that time out, when that kid was injured for Maryville. But, so we did exactly what, got the points, then was able to drive down. And then, like you said, I mean, our fans, like, it was just like they got a Joe to coffee. Like it was just going nuts. Our sideline was going nuts. And then our kids were like, oh, okay, they're just like a Rutherford County team. Let's go, and let's play. And I felt like what got us a little bit is we didn't do a good job on our kick. We were trying to kick it away from one. And we did, for some reason, I don't know, it felt like every time we kicked it like the wind, something, it would go straight to, I don't know what would happen. I mean, we would squib it. They had an up back 54.
Yeah.
And I was just like, kick it to him every time. Make sure he catches the ball. And I've been that gum. Every kickoff we had, it went straight to one.
One of the things I thought was really impressive about what y'all did, especially through the air, because I think it was a stark contrast between your QB Hampton versus Will Jones at Maryville. Two very different skill sets, two very talented quarterbacks. Your guy, like, he stood in the pocket, big kid. He was throwing some darts in this football game, and one of the things I noticed was, like, you found something over the middle against Maryville. And I talked to Coach Hunter after the game about this. And I thought it was really interesting about your offense, and the way that you attack in the passing game is different than a lot of high school programs do, where they attack side to side, or even if they're going to go vertical, they're going to go towards the hash on the sideline, that kind of thing. You were attacking over the middle, and you have talented receivers, talented quarterback. You found a lot of success over there. What did you see in the week ahead? Is that always just been kind of your MO? You like pushing it in the middle field, or was it just something about Maryville that you were like, I think we could do some stuff here?
No, Coach Barnes does, my offensive coordinator, Justin Barnes, he actually East Tennessee guy from Chattanooga, Saudi Daisy, and he's been with me 4 years now, and he does a great job calling our plays. And he just, he does a lot of stuff where he, mesh routes and things like that, and option routes where those kids can just read the safeties and it would see how the safeties are, where they're going, and being able to make the, and Gavin does a good job making those reads too and seeing that. And for what they were running, was able to get those guys open and free through the middle. And that's what we saw, being able to attack that.
Yeah. And I guess when you when you also talk about the running game, where Vaughn, I mean, as a sophomore, man, like how exciting is that to have him for 2 more years and to see how much better he can get, because he was awesome in this football game. What makes him a special back?
Jacob's gotten better every week. I told him last year after his freshman season, I was like, "Hey man, you're not gonna start. You won't start for us next year. You're not." I knew how fast he was, but I was trying to dangle that carrot.
Yeah.
And all spring I wouldn't let him be the starter, and all summer I'd rotate. He was never the starter going in until week 1. Week 1 of the game, he was not proclaimed the starting running back. And then week 1, against Knox Catholic, I put him in. I was like, "You're starting." And he kind of looked at me. I'm like, "What? Let's go. Like, you ready? You're ready for this moment." And but what I've preached about Vaughn is how he got better is, Vaughn, obviously you watched, he's really fast.
Yes.
And so in middle school and freshman ball, he was used to get to the edge, turn it up and score. So what made him better and got him better running the football is him running between the tackles and not bouncing. He at the beginning of the year, he was not patient. He would try to bounce everything outside. And once he's learned to read, follow his guards, trust his pullers, we're a lot of a zone team, and being able to see the crease and finding the crease and hit it. And he finally trusted coaches and himself, where once he hits that crease, even if it's a tiny crease, I was like, keep your shoulders square, get vertical, be patient. All right, you got to be patient through the line of scrimmage and through the second level at linebackers. Be patient and get your reads but once you get past the linebackers, that's when you turn it on, because you're going to be one-on-one with the safety. And he finally, once he figured that out, I don't know if you noticed, the last 3 weeks, man, he really played really well for us. And started trusting his reads and trusting his blocks, and he's explosive. And also what makes him a special back with us and really gained the starting role for us this year going into week 1 is he does a great job catching the ball in the backfield. He could, if he wasn't going to be a starter, if we say we had somebody that was a Mr. Football winner at back senior this year at back, Vaughn would have been a starting slot for us. He catches the ball that well. Like, he caught, so I think half of his touchdowns, he was through the air.
Yeah.
Because he did a good job. He'll run the wheel route out of the backfield and just catch it. He made some unbelievable catches. It was it the Rockville game? He caught one on his hip. It was a great catch. And then, he made some good catches against Oakland. And, he does a good job. And, he's such a good kid. And he's like just always smiling. We're down against Maryville, and he comes out just smile. We call him Smiley, and he's like, "Cause we got this. We're gonna be all right." And he started to figure out his role and understand what he can and can't do. And he's getting better in the he's getting a lot better in the weight room, getting stronger and getting bigger and faster for us. Obviously, he ran a 10.6 last year in the 100. So, he's pretty fast. And, as he gets faster, we'll appreciate that more. A great story I was telling that kind of surprised, we're playing Stewart's Creek this year. And I was like, let's go down and score. I got a couple timeouts in my pocket. We're on the 20. I said, let's go down and score, Coach Barnes. Let's go. Or at least try to get a field goal for a half. Well, we threw hit a pass to our slot receiver, Riley Talley. Penalty, holding, coming back. Next play, hit another pass in the middle to Luke. Penalty, holding. And I was mad. I was just frustrated. I said, just run the ball. I said, let's just run the ball. Let's get out of half. Just get out, Coach Barnes. He takes it 93 yards for a touchdown. The time expires on the last play. And that's, I've showed a lot of college coaches that clip. That's special. Because that was a lot all him, just running, seeing vision, and making the cuts that he needed to make to get in the end zone right there.
And he's just a sophomore.
Yeah, sophomore. So, we're trying to make sure he stays at Riverdale. How the way the world is now. And but again, we're close with his family, and he's a good kid, and he's close with our coaches, and we're just keep working, man. 2 more years of getting him bigger and faster and stronger will only help us.
At quarterback, you've also got a quarterback in Gavin Hampton, 2028 kid as well. What makes him a great leader and a great quarterback for your team?
Gavin does a great job. He's gotten better each and every week, and just being around the guys and motivating the guys. Just his demeanor, how he prepares, how he practices, how he comes to practice, how he strives to be great, and what he does. He got his players. He got everybody better around him. He got Vaughn better. I think him starting helped Vaughn. He was always in Vaughn's ear, always helping Vaughn, helping him. He was helping with the receivers. Him and Luke are really close, and then him and Corbin got tight. And they were always working to try to improve, to make sure they were doing things the right way and being able to connect on each other and just working. And his leadership just comes by. He's not a big vocal guy. It's more of his work ethic and how he works and how he shows up each and every day to get better.
When it feels weird because I'm always curious. Like, are you giving yourself some time to decompress from football? Are you going straight into the off season, Will? Are you giving some time to like, hey, we'll get into it in a little bit? Or are you like, no, the off season started on Sunday?
So last few years, we've lost in the quarterfinals, and then we have the next week off for Thanksgiving. So the last few years that we've lost in the quarterfinals to Oakland, I have decompressed and just like, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to the field house. I'm staying away. Unfortunately this year, Maryville got us in the second round. So I'm up here. So I haven't like dove in like crazy, but yes, I am starting to work and do some things. And that's what I was just meeting with my OC and DC, just now before I jumped on here, and to talk about some things and different things. And I've already met with my strength and my weight room guys about our speed and weights and everything, and just kind of knocking out some of that. And obviously, we're doing some exit meetings with some players and things like that, working on some seniors, trying to get feel what colleges they're interested in, because we want to help these kids get recruited. But I mean, be honest with you, my mind never stops. Like you said, when you're at this area of football, like it's constantly everybody. I mean, Rockville's getting a lot better. Coach Counts is doing a great job. He was at Henry County for years and been to the state championship game and semifinals, many times, and he's getting that program better. So, you always in Rutherford County, you always got to be working, because if you're not working, somebody else is, and it's it is. And like you said, Maryville, man, they're just right. They're unbelievable, and they're a good football program, and it's really, really good. I mean, the high school football in Tennessee, from top to bottom, is really good. People always, talk about other states and stuff. And I think we're starting to be able to compare with some of them, just with the quality of athletes we're getting here.
100%. You're seeing that in East Tennessee for sure. You've obviously seen that in the middle part of the state, Murfreesboro and Nashville, and Memphis has had the powerhouses as well. I am curious. I mean, now that you've seen it play out a little bit, do you like the playoff format change, or would you did you notice a difference? Do you even have an opinion on it?
I mean, I like it. It doesn't bother me. Yeah, the second round game is farther, and that makes so our games, our region game. We lost to Blackman in week 3, so 17-14 in a thunderstorm. All right, or 17-10. I'm sorry, 17-10 in a thunderstorm. We had a 2.5 hour delay, and we dropped the tying touchdown. Or if we'd have called it. If we'd have finished, I was going to go for 2, but because the storm was coming behind it. But it's crazy to think our week 3 game was that important, because if we beat Blackman right there, then we're going farther east and not having to go see Maryville.
Yeah,
and we're not seeing Maryville till this week. You know what I mean? And so it's huge. Obviously, you always fight to be number 1, but being number 1 in our region now, it means something. You know what I mean? You don't see any of our teams possibly until, if you're number 1, you don't possibly see anybody until the quarters. Or like Coach Kriesky, if they win this week, he's not going to see he possibly wouldn't see anybody until the semis.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of makes it's more special for the region champs, because you don't have to, because I always, just think about it. If we had the old format, we just played Oakland week 10, right? Well, we would have played them last week.
Yeah.
That's who we were a number 3.
And that's what they're trying to avoid.
Yeah, we were a number 3 seed team, and we'd have had to turn around and play Oakland again. I mean, not saying we'll play them. Our kids have, we've played with them, and the last, 4 games been right there, and actually been up in the second half, the last 4 games. But I just think that when you get to the playoffs and like that helps, and that makes the region champs mean a little bit more, but it also makes it tougher now on the second and third place team because now instead of seeing Oakland early, you're going to see Maryville. So, I mean, it's like, who do you want to see? Maryville or Oakland? I mean, both
two
of them
powerhouses. Like, and if you're good and you keep winning, you're going to see them regardless. Like, that's the whole thing. There's nowhere to run. You're eventually going to see them.
Exactly. Like, you're going to see the best of the best. And, what is it? Maryville in the last 25 years lost, one home playoff game? Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, Coach Hunt has kept it going. Him and Coach Quarles, they've just done an unbelievable job.
I think maybe 20 or something. I mean, I know Oakland beat them 1 year there, but I think the other times because I know Bradley Central beat Maryville at Bradley the year Bradley made it to the semis. So I was trying to. I think it's been quite a bit. I mean, they got a good little streak at home in the playoffs. So when you go see Maryville at Maryville, I mean, at their place, it's going to be tough.
I mean, I just think here, I mean, you and Coach Hunt are just elite coaches here in 6A. And I just think what we saw on Friday night, we got to get it in the regular season. We got to get it. We got to get Riverdale, Maryville more often because that was a really, really fun matchup. We got to make it happen more often.
It was. And, it's crazy because I think, like you said, I think that sells, I mean, both of us will get good gates. I mean, you saw both, and that'd be really good for both programs, and for us to be able to get, to get over the hump of the Oaklands and the Maryvilles, we got to play people like that, and we got to figure it out. And playing those teams only gets you better because my coordinators in here studying they've been studying since this is what we should have, I should have done this, because another unknown is that we haven't played Maryville since 2011. Yes, we've seen them on film against Oakland and things like that, but it's different. You don't truly understand your opponent till you play them. You understand what I'm saying? We played Germantown a few years ago and we had a series with them out of Memphis. Well, we went down there early the first time, but it didn't. We lost it the last drive. But the second year we were able to get them because I feel like you just get familiarized with your opponent and understand your opponent and then understand who the head coach is and what they do and what they run. And, it's a lot of unknowns. And I think that's good. And that helps prepare you for the playoffs now with this new playoff system.
I like it. Now that the season, like you said, we're in off-season mode and we're thinking ahead to 2026. What is the biggest area your team has to improve going into next year?
We lost 2 offensive linemen, so I think we need to get, better up front, and try to think, I think we got better up front. We lost our left tackle against Knox Catholic. And it took us a few weeks. It took us 2 weeks to figure it out up front. And then a sophomore coming in, Alex Judd, ended up starting for us at left tackle, and another sophomore. So, we played quite a bit of young kids on offense this year. But I feel like we got to be more consistent up front, and that's one of the goals, to get better up front. But we lose on the defensive side. Now we lose quite a bit of our D linemen. So obviously both sides of the ball, we got to get better up front.
We'll end on this, Coach. One of the things I'm always curious about is just now that season's over, you've played in so many big games. It was obviously still a highly successful season for you guys. What's your favorite memory that you think you're going to take, you're going to remember that years down the line that you're just that was a great part of the 2025 football season for me?
That's tough, but I really think, just how this team came together. We started the season 1-2 and then we won 6 straight. And you saw this team get better and better every week. And, this group right here, what hurt me the most was this group. I mean, I loved coaching this group. This is this is my 10th season. This was one of my most enjoyable groups. I mean, I've never had a group as a whole, everybody, I'm talking all 22 starters, special teams. I mean, they were bought into all the standards. They believed in the standards. They lived the standards. And our practices, I mean, it was so competitive. And just the thing that I'll take away is the unselfishness of this group. And that starts with Aiden Edmonds, our starting linebacker, middle linebacker has been a 3-year starter. And Gavin, Those guys were very unselfish. They didn't worry about accolades. Nobody ever talked about accolades. Not one time did a kid come to me after a game or on Sundays when we meet with them on Sundays and complain about touches. And the biggest thing I'll take away from this group is the unselfishness that they had. And I'm talking about like practices were so much fun with this group. Like they were so much competitive. Our offensive defensive coaches would go at it, but the biggest thing I'll take away is the unselfishness and just how these kids just bought in and believed in everything we did. And then, we lost the Oakland game, but that was another battle. That was a battle down to the wire. And I just feel like this program keeps moving in the right direction. And, we keep building, keep growing. Like you said, I believe we're one of the top programs of the state. I believe that. And the kids believe that, and they truly believe that. And I think that just helps us keep growing and getting better each and every year.
Coach, how do the good folks here all across East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, West Tennessee, how do they support all things Riverdale here this offseason and over the next couple months?
We do a lot of things, we got turf, we got a jumbotron, and, everybody knows. And so, people can come out and help, if there's any advertisement or anything they want, man, we got a massive, we just bought it, back in June, our jumbotron. And if there's anything they want, any advertisement, like you said, it doesn't matter. Like with those jumbotrons, it doesn't matter where you are. You can put your advertisement up anywhere. And people, if there's anything they want or supportive, and we can run commercials and different things like that. And just, hey, why not support Riverdale? Come out and support and be a part of the program. And we'll start our fundraising and things like that to get our kids equipments and everything through the lift-a-thon. But the big thing is just, if there's anything they want to do or have us put up on the jumbotron, they can just reach out to me through my school email.
Well, congratulations on a great season. I'm glad I was able to catch Riverdale Maryville in person on Friday. It was a lot of fun, and you're doing a great job. You're 10. When you say that, does that feel like that's crazy to say? You're double digits now, like 10. The years must fly by.
They do. This year flew by really quick, and it's crazy to think that I got a son that's in 7th grade. That'll be in 8th grade, and man, he was young. He was young when I took his job, and here pretty soon he'll be sitting up here in the field house with me all day long. So that's crazy that it's flying by like that. But it makes it even crazier now, with my twin brother over at Blackman, and now that he's in the region, and it makes it for some interesting conversations. I'll tell you that. Coach Hunt did ask me about it. He said, how is that? Y'all good with that? And I'm like,
yeah,
no, we're not good with it. Come on, we're twins. We're 5 minutes apart. We get over it and move on. But it takes a few weeks for.
Do one of you try to hire the other one, just to let's just team up, why? Because you have the Price brothers at Grace, obviously. Yeah. So it's gone really well there. Y'all are just fighting. No, you come to my side, and we'll team up. It'll be all right.
Yeah, we've tried that, but it's just never worked out. My brother did work with the Price brothers at the All-Star game, and he got to be really, really close with them one year. And that's what they said. How do y'all do that? They're just crazy. Because twins are close, man.
Yeah.
Especially we talk every day, and now we got to be careful what we say to each other.
Yeah.
Is he taking notes? What's he with? You know what I mean? So, and we got to be careful.
Coach Hunt has a reason to be like, this isn't really fair. I got to go against the twins back to back. That's not really fair.
Yeah. So, so it's been good. It's been fun, and it is tough, but I think it makes the rivalry even better.
I love it. Will, thank you again for the time today. We'll have to check back in again soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me come on and talk about a little Riverdale football today.
Absolutely.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.